Good everyone, Roscoe here from the In The M.L.O.G podcast. Thanks for tuning in. When I think about the questions that I get asked a lot in doing what I do in fitting clubs, selling golf clubs, and just being part of the golf industry, the number one question, maybe not the number one, but I get it asked a lot is, hey Ross, what do you recommend? What do you use? What's in your bag? And I get why people want to know that, because they see someone in me that's around golf clubs all day, every day. So I understand. Sometimes it's not relevant to the person asking because they need a totally different set of clubs in a fitting sense or a game sense or an ability sense, and that's fine as well, and that's what we do. But I guess it's a relevant question and I'd love to answer it. So I'm going to answer what is in my bag right now. And I emphasize the point, what's in my bag right now, because it changes a lot. I've got the luxury of being able to test some different clubs, being able to use different clubs, but I've also got, I guess, the responsibility to represent a number of the brands that I get that opportunity to talk about. I guess the way I look at it, equitably. So I like to mix and match. I like to chop around. I like to change, and I like to sample from different plates, if you like to put it in a dietary way. And that's a great thing. Sometimes it's hard to get used to different clubs when you're changing all the time, but you know what? I usually stick to a type. I have a type, and I usually stick on that pathway. So I'm going to show you what's in my bag right now, for now. It could change, probably will change. There's several sets that I probably could access right now, but right now I'm going to show you what's in the bag as we speak. So let's start at the top end and work to the bottom end of the bag. When I say the top end of the bag, the number one scoring club has to be the putter. And what's in my bag right now, if you can see that, is that beautiful limited edition Scotty Cameron Newport 2 T22. It was released 2019. It was the first Terillium face putter that Scotty had released in a long time. There was a lot of hype about it. I'm not usually one to grab a Scotty Cameron exclusive putter. It's just not my jam, but I thought, I'm going to get one of these. I didn't think that I'd keep it. I didn't think that I'd use it. I was a mallet putter player, but you know what? In lockdown last year, I started putting with this putter in the indoor putting mat, and it hasn't left my bag since. I really like it. I'm going to keep it. I'm never going to get rid of this. I'll say that for now. And it's in my bag as the gamer, and it's a really nice piece. Love it. 35 inches, T22 Newport 2, beautiful. Driver. Okay. This is one of the clubs that does come in and go out and get changed quite a lot. It's one of the ones that I like to really sample and dial in for me for a period of time. If I find a new one that I like, I'll usually jump into it for a while. So the one that I'm using at the moment, and it's a brand that I hadn't gamed for a long time. I just didn't go back to the brand, and I guess it was going to take a lot for me to want to use this. And this new TSI 3 from Titleist, their new product, I fitted myself in there one afternoon. I was just killing some time after work in the sim. I thought I'll give this a really good go, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. So it's probably one of 3 drivers that I had, TaylorMade. Ping's always, I guess, been in my lineup for a long time, but right now, this TSI 3, it's a 9-degree head. I have the weight, the rear CG weight set neutrally, so I play it in the middle. I think most of their better players do, or they might set it at one end or the other. It never usually gets altered once you get it set to your sort of swing path and trajectory shape. 9-degree head, so there, a few little T-marks there. And I know you want to know what shaft is in there. And this was the other part that surprised me. I use an X-Flex shaft in my long clubs, a 60-gram X-Flex. The Hazardous Smoke RDX, now it's a shaft that is in a number of different brands. I put this in, and for me it was a game changer. I haven't used it in any of the other drivers that I've got, but just in this combo, it just felt great. Worked really well in terms of numbers. Reduced my spin. I'm always fighting a higher spin. Anytime that I can get a spin rate under 3,000 RPM that's a good thing for me. I just a little bit steep down on it. And this just had low spin and it went. And I think if you watch a bit of YouTube and see other people who have hit and tested and do all that side-by-side comparison. I'm not a side-by-side comparison guy. I think that's always stood out pretty well in terms of performance with a number of the other people who are very prolific in the YouTube space. I've hit a drive for a while. Let's see what happens here. A little bit left, but yeah, for me this TSI 3 with the API face, just ball comes hot off the face. I really enjoy it. I like the fact that Titleist have gone back to a more traditional Titleist shape. That was one thing that I guess wanted me to at least experience the Titleist driver back in the bag. This nice, tour inspired, to use the marketing vernacular, shape was, I guess, one of the things that won me over. But hitting at 280 yards was another thing that I guess won me over as well. There you go, 111 club head speed, 270 carry, 282 yards, 161 ball speed. That'll do me. Path, that's for the real techie people that are watching that have stayed this far. 8.3 degrees inside out. That's probably a little bit inside out, a little bit too much from the inside. Probably I'd like to be a little bit more neutral. Bring that down a couple of degrees, but you can see I'm compensating that with having an open face of impact. So that's the result of that draw shape that's happening. 15.8 degrees of launch. That's pretty good. We talked about earlier on under 3,000 RPMs of spin, so that's generating 2,700 RPMs of spin. That's good for me. But having played golf for a little bit, to come back out and be able to be swinging at 111, I'm okay with that. I'm really okay with that. In doing what I do and talking to people about their top end of the bag and trying to fit sets of clubs that suit people's game and suit their requirements on course, this is another area that quite often comes up in the conversation, and it's hybrid / driving iron / fairway wood. And I sort of, for me, group it together. And the reason is, I'll bring the fairway wood out at the same time, is because I'm basically looking for clubs that give me different flight characteristics, different trajectories, and I guess for different scoring situations. So at the moment, now I have a 3-wood, but at the moment I'm not carrying a 3-wood. And it might surprise you that I actually carry a 5-wood and a 2 driving iron. And you might say, well, why would you carry a 5-wood and 2 driving iron? Don't they go similar distances? Yeah, they do. But for me, the 5-wood gives me that nice high flight, steeper descent angle, softer landing, so it's ideal into longer par 5s for second shots and so on and so forth. It's great out of the rough as a recovery club there, just a little bit of loft. And this one is the Tour Edge Exotics EXS Pro. It's not a brand that I've used in a while. I did have Tour Edge driver fairway combo a number of years ago, but this is a rocket ship. And it's got in the bag. Staying in the bag for a wee while. I like it because I have dialed the weights up a little bit in this. It's got the 2 weight ports here, heavy weight and a lighter weight. So I've got the heavy weight very much on the toe, just to stop it turning over. When you put the weight to the extremity, to the toe side of the club, it's going to help slow that rotational impact through impact. So I do that, and it's just I can go at that as hard as I can, and it just flights up nice and high. It's got this beautiful rib sole, titanium face. It is a rocket ship, and I can adjust the flight of that in terms of I can hit low if I need to, I can hit high if I need to. It's a bonded head, so it's not adjustable, but it really is one that I enjoy using at the moment. Sticky in that part of the bag that I spoke about is the driving iron. It's also a two-edge Exotics EXS titanium cup face. It's got the hollow core set up here like a lot of the driving irons, the hollow construction. A little bit like a hybrid, but certainly looks more like a driving iron at address. And it's the first time that I've used a driving iron, and I've been a driving iron person for a number of years, maybe 6 years. Had driving irons in my bag. I love the concept of a driving iron as a fairway finder, short par 4 on the sand belt. Love that ability just to hit it confidently, hit it nice and low, flight it low. It's a great links course club, just low running, getting that ball out there. It's nice and accurate for me. Easy to hit, a lot of forgiveness for a low lofted iron. I love a driving iron. Does it suit everyone? I'm not a hybrid player. A lot of people need a hybrid, not me. I like a driving iron. And the first time that I've had a driving iron with a graphite shaft. This is the Tensai Silver, so it's their, I guess, mid-launch low spin shaft in that Tensai family. It's the AV series, so it's a 75 gram X, and I was unsure at the start about going to a graphite shafted driving iron. I've always had the same steel shaft as I had in my irons. I tried it. Once again, going back to that original point, I can try. I tried it and I really like it. So what I do here, and this is the other part, once again, I guess having the luxury of being able to do it, is I have 3 driving irons. I've got a 2, a 3 and a 4. And, sometimes depending on whichever course, I might carry the 2 and I might start my iron set at the 4 iron matched to the set. Or I might carry a 2 and a 4 driving iron. Just depends on how I'm feeling or where I'm playing or the conditions, so on and so forth. Having that ability to do that. Or I might drop the 2 and the 4 and put the 3 in and then carry the 4 iron from the set. So I've got 3 driving irons. They're all the same brand, 2, a 3 and a 4 loft, all the same shaft, that 75 gram Tensai Silver Orange, just with a standard grip. And I love having the ability to choose that weaponry in the top end. So that's my top end. Driver, 5-wood, driving iron. Probably the reason why I like driving irons. Just the ability to flight that ball nice and low is something that I personally don't get out of a hybrid. They just don't suit me. And I can flight a 2 iron, driving a 2 driving iron a little bit higher if need be. So that's probably, for anyone that thinks about why driving irons, why so many, why hybrids. For me, the ability to be able to fly it low and a little bit higher is really key to having that usable club in that part of the bag. I like it. So, if you've heard me talk on the podcast or you've listened to anything that I've said, you've probably worked out that the Strixon iron family has been in my bag probably the most often. If you look back since Strixon brought out their new Z series, the Z 745s. That iron went in my bag in maybe 2015 or 16, whenever that came out. I had the 745, 765, 785, so it just became pretty much a fait accompli that I was going to jump into the new ZX7. The thing with that family of irons, the ZX family of irons from Strixon, they are extreme clubs, beautiful to look at, beautiful to hit, great performance, and they're super valued. So it really, in terms of selling that product, it makes it very easy when you can present something that is such a well-made product that performs really well at a great price point. It's not the only clubs set that I've used this year. We might talk about the other ones in a second. But right now, if you want to know what is in the bag, it is the ZX7 from Strixon. Who would use these? So I think a lot of the Strixon players use this iron. I think maybe Hideki uses the Z Forged, which was a previous set. I have a set of Z Forged out there. And that was an interesting experiment, which we'll talk about in a sec. But the ZX7, the cavity, they've got some tungsten in the toe, down to the 6 iron, just to help with the CG and the flighting and the shape and the forgiveness. That is a really nice set of clubs. Go and look at the lofts and all of that sort of thing under your own steam. I love these, and I've got them mated to the Nippon Modus 3 120X. For me, that was another big learning curve in what I term shaftology. I've used the Modus shaft before, and in a number of clubs. I've used the Modus 130. That's with the stiffer up here, soft, high launching tip. Flighted the ball a little bit too high for me, and then when I went to the 120, so similar weight profile, but just a different flex point. It's actually got a step that starts here and no step through here, but it's a little softer here, a little lower launch through here. That was a game changer for me. I used that in a couple of sets that I had, and then for whatever reason, once again, just to sample and try it from a different plate, I moved back to a Project X 6.0. Hadn't used that shaft for a long time, and it was probably a mistake. Nothing wrong with the shaft. The shaft's great. It's a great low launch, very taut, firmer playing feeling shaft. Great for a stronger player. It was just probably a little bit too strong for me, and it proved that I need to feel a little bit of flex in the shaft through impact, through the swing, and mainly at impact. I needed to feel that head being able to release a little bit more. And the Project X just was a little bit taut. And what that meant was in the poor strikes, the bad strikes, it was just a little bit unforgiving. It wasn't the head. The Z Forged head for a blade is quite a forgiving blade. It's a nice longer blade. It's a pretty nice club to hit. But the shaft just was a little bit taut. It just didn't work with me and my swing. So that was a bit of a learning curve. I went away from the Modus, went to the Project X, and then now in this set of Strixon, I've gone back to the Modus. And I've only had the opportunity to use them a few times because, obvious reasons, it's been lockdown, so we haven't been playing. But for to pitch in the ZX7, the other set of clubs that I've still got and have gained were the TaylorMade P7 MC. Also a really nice club. It reminds me of my, I guess, TaylorMade P7, not P7, what were they called? Rack. I had one of the first sets of rack combos that came into Australia back in the early 2000s. And the P7 MCs, just remind me of that. So I've got those. They're a beautiful club, well made. Matt Bovee from TaylorMade, who I've spoken to on the podcast before, he's done a great job with that club. I've still got them. If I've still got it and haven't moved them on, it means I really like them. But right now, this is what's in the bag today. The ZX7s are in the bag. P7 MCs are still downstairs. Come on. Left.
Don't worry about the same right-hand bunker. The moral to that story is don't aim at the right-hand bunker and think you're going to come back. Just aim at the green. Just aim at the green. Funny that. Funny that. There you go.
And wedges. This is another interesting category, you know, when it comes up in discussion, in doing what we do, in fitting people. It's like cars, you know, like people like a Ford, like a Holden, like a Mercedes, like a BMW, and wedges are a little bit like that. You know, people have got very strong allegiances to brands. People like to match wedges in families. You know, if they're a Titleist wedge person, they're going to have Vokeys. If they're a TaylorMade, they're going to have NGs. If they're a Strixon, they might have Clevelands. You know, Cleveland is part of Strixon's family. So me, the last couple of sets of wedges I've had, and once again, it was one that I didn't think that I'd go back to after using this particular brand a long time ago. Don't know why I went away from it, but I went back to can't see it very well there in this dark simulator environment. I went back to the Vokeys. Yeah, I went to the SM7s and now progressed into the SM8s. And I don't know what it is about these for me, but they just seem to work better. It's the worst part of my game. So you've heard me talk about that. You know, I get coaching from Dom as a party. You know, he looks at my chipping and shakes his head and goes, Ross, we talked about that in the last chipping lesson. Keep working on what we talked about in the last chipping lesson. Just for me, one of the things that gives me some level of confidence is this club for me. I've used Cleveland. I've used pretty much all the wedges. The M.L.O.G grind, TaylorMade came to Scotland with me on the recent trip in 2019. I love those, but I just end up gravitating back towards what's worked for me with my, I guess, inadequate technique. And it's always the Vokey. You can't see it very well against the dark shirt because it's the black finish, that black raw finish with the black PVD. I'm always going to have a different, if there's a different option other than chrome, pretty much I'm guaranteed to always have that different option. So if there's a black finish in a wedge, I'll have that. If there's a raw finish, that true raw finish that's designed to rust and have that nice, you know, rusted patina, I'll always have that over the chrome. It's just me. It goes back to getting a beryllium wedge in 1987 in Palm Springs as a gift. That was the first, I think, beryllium wedge, definitely in Cessnock, maybe in Australia, I don't know. But that really sort of set the tone for me for really having a desire to get these darker wedges. So, yeah, Vokey, SM8s, I really like them. What is the combo? That's the other interesting part about the what's in my bag. There's 4 of them. So, obviously, you've worked out by now that I have got much more than 14 clubs with the 3 driving irons and 4 wedges. Once again, pretty much the 50 and the 54 are set. They're always in the bag, 50 being the gap wedge. That's just your normal F grind. For me, the 54 I use also as the F grind. So F grind is Vokey's full bounce. You can see, maybe you can see it in the picture there, you know, that nice big bounce profile. That just really helps once again with my substandard chipping technique. Just gives me a lot of forgiveness in creating those bigger divots, and it's good for a variety of conditions of different courses that I play. You know, if you go to a softer course, maybe through winter like Mornington, it really works well in softer conditions. But also through the couch of the sandbelt, that softer couch, you know, it can get a little bit grabby if it's a little bit steep at the ball, so that helps as well. So that's pretty consistent. The 50 is consistent. What are the other 2 I hear you say? Well, obviously they're the M.L.O.G wedges. I've got a 58. Once again, 58 in the K grind. The K grind in the Vokey is their full bounce. You actually see a lot more tour players using the K grind than you would think. I think what I see is a lot of people have a tendency to want to go really low in a M.L.O.G wedge. That they seem to understand how the bounce and low bounce is going to mean that they're going to get more spin and more height. And that's not always the case. It works in some situations and for some players, but it largely depends on swing type, angle of attack, and how shallow you are, what type of divot profile you make, the conditions of the course you play on. You know, if you're playing on a really firm, you know, conditions, dry course or firm type sandbelt, turf, or maybe a firm links, you know, a low bounce might suit you. You know, you're not going to get a lot of bounce or trailing edge affecting the leading edge, making the leading edge sit up. So that might suit you. But for me, once again, going back to technique and being a little bit steep and playing in conditions where I know I'm going to have a little bit of give under the strike, I carry this. Now, why have you got then the other one? Well, what happened was, as good as this was from the grass, it was letting me down out of the sand for that very reason. That big, healthy bounce profile, when we open that up, on anything that's firmer sand, and usually in the sand belt, we've got a little bit firmer sand, might be nice and soft on top, but underneath it gets a little bit firm pretty quick. So to get that purchase, to get the ball up in the air and get it to stop and get it to spin on the firmer sand belt greens, I just didn't have the, you can almost see the leading edge sticking up there. So if you're coming down here, that trailing edge there was really presenting the leading edge a little bit too high. So as good as it was for me off the grass, it was costing me shots in the bunker. And the bunker is one part of the game where I don't have an issue. I'm a good bunker player. So I had to make a decision. So I got another lob wedge, and I went with the 60 degree. So I want a maximum height from the 60, but I went with the M grind. Now the M grind is still 8 degrees of bounce, a little bit of relief on this trailing part of the sole grind, and a little bit of crescent cut grind here. You just sort of see that there was the wear mark. So that leading edge can get into the sand with a little bit more freedom, but you still have a little bit of bounce relief. Not as much as the 14 at 8 degrees, so it's obviously 6 degrees difference. But I was really confident with this out of the bunker, and it worked really well. And what I've had to do is work on my game. I've had to be better at playing this type of shot off the grass. I've had to be conscious of it and really work on that part. And that's the work that I'm doing with Dom, to try and see different shot shapes, see different flights, and trying to get this type of club and just have the confidence to make that work. And it is working. So, this is actually becoming my leading sort of wedge in the chipping game. The 58 at the moment has been relegated to the backyard, where I chip off the soft grass in the backyard just to keep a little bit going. And that's it. Shafts and the wedges, standard shaft, just use the standard Voki issued shaft. It's like a stiff flex profile. I think it's built around like an S200. Recently we had a presentation from Roger Cleveland, and he definitely said in the 60 degree, maybe your sand wedge as well, that having that softer flex shaft is not a bad thing, just because you are hitting the ball a little softly, more softly, a little bit less aggression. So you want that head to be able to release through the strike, and also for feel. So I agree with that concept. In a fitting sense, there's not too many people that we see these days that go a heavy stiff shaft all the way through down a lob wedge. It certainly does happen, and once again, personal preference and personal desires are always going to overtake what someone like me might suggest, because someone else suggests that, etc., etc. A lot of the time, people know what they want in that club. We'll just choose what they want. That's fine. The thing that Roger Cleveland did say that he would always match the iron wedge, so the shafts that you have in your irons, to your gap wedge, because that's pretty much a full swing club. So you want that club to perform largely and feel and release the same as your iron in your set. I don't do that. I've just got the Voki wedge, and for me, I like that. I only play 3/4 shot predominantly with my gap wedge, so it's still a feel. What I would do otherwise for that knockdown and different distance, I'd usually play different type of shot from pitching wedge. Just suits me. So that's a little bit about what's in the bag. I hope you've enjoyed that video. Thanks for subscribing to the YouTube channel. If you don't subscribe and want to see more videos like this, I'm making a lot more effort to make more content, both here for the In.The.M.L.O.G Golf YouTube site and also for the Drum and Golf YouTube site. So you can see both YouTubes. But right here, subscribe to the In.The.M.L.O.G Golf YouTube. You'll get the episodes with Rocket and Magic Mike. Some of the interviews that we're now doing and video recording, we'll publish those more frequently. and really just trying to bring a little bit more behind the scenes of the mile-off golf world to you, our loyal listeners. I appreciate you listening. Subscribe. I don't know where the subscribe button is, if it's there or there. If you want to see more of this type of content, let me know. Leave a comment down below. When we can get out of being in a click and collect simulated environment, I'm just here doing a bit of click and collect work today, we'll get out on the course and get down to the range, and we'll start really showing you what these wonderful golf clubs that I get access to are all about, and having a bit of fun with some people on the course. And so that's it for today. Thanks for joining in, and we'll see you next time on the My Love of Golf podcast or My Love of Golf YouTube. Subscribe. Thank you.